And now, if y'all were listening to Kelly Erstein's intro, he took about half of my page here. But we're going to have a great speaker, Kelly McDonald. A few of us were able to see her in Atlanta last year. It's kind of like one of these things I thought I knew, but until she spoke, I really learned a lot, and I hope you'll find her very interesting. Kelly, if you'd come on up. I don't know if you're coming up or not. Well, I mean, I know you're coming up. I know you move around a lot too. But she's got a book. I mean, I bought your book, How to Market to People Not Like Yourself. Yep. So there you go. And but I think you'll find it very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you. Hang on one second. I was pushing the wrong button here. That's good, right? Hi, everybody. How you doing? Happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I want to talk about how to market to people not like you. Can somebody help me out here? Does this one work? So sorry. Technical difficulties. Thank you. Oh, it's got an on-off switch. What do you know? All right. I'm blonde. See, I can say that. You can't. Right? Okay. There we go. How to market to people not like you. I think this is a really important topic, and I know that you do too, because you're all independent executives working for yourselves, self-employed usually, and increasingly we are not a one-size-fits-all world. We have to be working with people who are not like us. So we've all heard the expression that America is a melting pot, right? We've all heard that expression. America is a melting pot. Well, we're actually not a melting pot anymore, and we are never going to be a melting pot again. We have in fact become a salad bowl, and let me explain. America is a melting pot is an expression that had to do with immigration in the early 1900s. We had a huge wave of immigrants from all over the world, but particularly from Europe. Ireland, Italy, Poland, Germany. Many of your ancestors and mine came through Ellis Island, got processed as new arrivals, and the idea was that no matter who you were or where you were from, we threw you into one pot, simmered away your differences, and you came out Americanized, right? One culture, one homogeneous society, all of that. Well, today, most organizations, society, and definitely business recognize that diversity is a progressive mindset. We don't all have to look the same, be the same, dress the same, or even speak the same language, especially to contribute to business. So when you look at a salad, there's not one single element of a salad that can be mistaken for anything else. The tomato does not look like the radish does not look like the cucumber does not look like the avocado, and so on and so forth. Every element of a salad is distinctive and can be seen for what it is. And most of us would agree that the more and different stuff you put into a salad, the better the salad gets. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you. I'm a big fan of the census, and I think that you should be a fan of the census too. You know, as taxpayers, we paid for this. It's ours, okay? And it's a gift. It's a gift that only comes once a decade. Only once every 10 years do we count up every single person in this country. And we get a pretty clear snapshot of what our country looks like. So I think you're duty-bound as local business professionals serving a local community to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on out there. How can you serve your local community if you don't know who your community is and what your community looks like today? And it doesn't matter where you live and work in North Carolina, I promise you that your community around you today does not look like anything like it looked 10 years ago. And 10 years from now, it's not going to look anything like it looks today. So it is your job to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on out there. And so for the next 6 hours, I'll be taking you through the census data point by point by point. Now, I want to cover a couple of key facts that you may not have heard about the census and some major findings and major shifts. We had more change demographically in the last 10 years, between 2000 and 2010, than any other 10-year period of time in our history. So the first key finding is that 1 in 3 people now in the United States is not white. Think about that. 1 in 3 people is not white. Now, obviously, places like California, New York, and Florida are way more diverse than, let's say, Vermont or New Hampshire or Maine. But nevertheless, 1 in 3 people is not white. And in fact, the census has been tracking diversity for the last few decades with what they call the diversity index. And let me explain how to read this. It's actually quite simple. The diversity index simply means if I grab any 2 people at random anywhere in the United States, what's the likelihood that those 2 people will be of different races or ethnicities? That's all it means. So back in 1980, if I grabbed any two people at random, anywhere in the country, I had a 34% probability that those two people were going to be of different races or ethnicities. Or in other words, I had a 66% probability that they were going to be of the same race. That being white, because white is the predominant race in the United States. But look how fast it's changed. In just 3 decades, we've gone from a 34% probability to a 52% probability. Your numbers, people, you understand what this means. Today, it is statistically more likely that any two people selected at random anywhere in the United States are actually going to be of different races or ethnicities than the same. Now, the cool thing about the census information is that it's available not just on a national level like that, but it's also available on a state level, a county level, and a local level. So this is North Carolina's diversity index, and as you can see, it's just pretty much the same average as the nation. The nation's at 52 even, and North Carolina is at 52.3. So what this means is if I grab any two people at random in the state of North Carolina, I've got a 52.3% shot that those two people are going to be of different races or ethnicities in your state. So you're again at par with the national average. Now, if you want to see where to get this information for your county or your local level, let's say you've got a specific footprint of, you're serving, 3 or 4 counties, and you want to see what your footprint looks like there. Then if you want to make yourself insane, go to uscensus.gov and try to get this information, okay? It's all there, seriously, but you need to medicate yourself before you go there, okay? Or take a shot of whiskey or something, because it's really, only our government could make it as impossible to get this stuff as, as can be. So I think the very best place to get this is actually at usatoday.com. Now, you all got a copy of this presentation. I think it was emailed to you, and some of you I see actually have it printed out and stuff. So you don't need to write this down. But the thing that USA Today is good at, well, let me say what they're not good at. What USA Today is not good at is they're not good at in-depth articles, right? Nobody reads USA Today for their in-depth coverage of anything. What they're really good at is sound bites, and they're really good at graphically pleasing information, right? They're good at taking a lot of information and formatting it in a way that is graphically pleasing, right? Like little bar charts and all that kind of stuff. So what USA Today did was take all of the census information and reformat it into a graphically pleasing, extremely user-friendly, easy to understand, and easy to navigate format. So if you go to usatoday.com, and you will find the diversity index for every single city, every single town, and every single county in the United States. And you'll also find some cool things like population density, racial and ethnic composition. And I want to show you this because you probably really can't see that very well in the back, but let me explain to you what you're looking at. It's a screenshot from the website. And what I've done here is I have selected North Carolina counties. Now you probably can't see this, but just to the left of that, it's kind of grayed out. That's where it says states. And that's where I got the North Carolina 52.3 diversity index. And so I'm looking at North Carolina counties. To the right of that, it's grayed out also. It says North Carolina localities. So once I go there and I pick North Carolina counties, I pick from the drop-down menu race. And I get the racial and ethnic composition here of every single county alphabetized in the state of North Carolina. But that still doesn't give me the diversity index. Where do I get that? Well, if I go to the same place, the North Carolina counties, but instead of pulling down race, I pull down ethnicity, then Shazam, I get the North Carolina County Diversity Index for every county. And as you can see, it's definitely not one size fits all. I would think that it would be very, very important to see the differences in the diversity index in these counties. And so what this means is if I grab any two people at random anywhere, I gotta say this, in, what's about the 5th one down there? Adel? What is it? Yeah, whatever. So if I grab any two people at random in that county, that's the diversity index in that county. Okay, so you understand how to read this. So hopefully this is helpful to you because again, if I were you serving a local community, I'd want to take a look at the footprint that I'm in and see what the diversity index is for all of these different counties and all of these different towns. Now you can look at this as a map that shows the diversity index by county for the entire nation. It gives you a visual snapshot of how diverse our nation has become. So it's one of these intuitive maps where, you know, the darker red is the greater diversity. And as you can see here, the entire state of North Carolina is incredibly diverse, particularly on the eastern side of the state. It's what we call a smile. If you painted a smile across the United States, you would find that the most diverse parts of the country are actually, you know, starting up there in Seattle, let's say, and going across and down and up, okay, like a smile across the United States. But the point is, you know, 10 years ago, this kind of diversity map looked pretty much like California, Arizona, Texas, Florida, and New York. But now what we see is a tremendous rate of growth in diverse racial and ethnic groups all across the country, and even in places that were never really considered all that diverse. I mean, look at like northern Michigan there, and even northern Montana. So, 4 states, plus the District of Columbia, now have what we call minority-majority populations. Minority-majority is exactly what the name sounds like. If you add all minority groups up together, African American, Hispanic, Native American, Asian, and other, they are collectively larger than the white population. And that is the case in Texas, California, Hawaii, New Mexico, and in DC. However, as we look at children under the age of 18, people under the age of 18, that list of 4 states grows to a list of 10, meaning that the younger you go in this country, the more diverse the population becomes. How many of you have children of any age in any kind of school? I don't care if it's college or grade school or kindergarten or whatever, just school. Okay, so it looks like about easily a third of the room, maybe even half. Let me see those hands again. How many of you have, all right, half. Half of you have kids in school. Have you looked at your children's playgrounds? I mean, my gosh, increasingly the student body at any school anywhere in the country is very, very, very diverse. And this is what we see here. Again, as we look at people under the age of 18 in the United States, 10 states have minority-majority populations. Now, just because you didn't see North Carolina, or let's say even South Carolina on this list, oh, by the way, I also want to point out too, that in my mind, this list is starting to look pretty interesting. It's starting to have what I have always considered not exactly high density diversity states on there, like Nevada. I never used to think of Nevada as a particularly diverse state, but it is now. In the last 15 years, incredibly diverse. So, just because you don't see North Carolina on that state, though, or South Carolina for that matter, I don't want you to dismiss this and go, oh, well, it's very, very clear that in these places people are going to have to be paying attention to diversity, you know, but not so much in our state. We're not, you know, we're not really there yet. Not necessarily, because across every single major market now in the United States, the majority of the child population is non-white. Now let me let that sink in and explain this to you. First, you might ask is, well, what do you mean by major market? What does that mean? That's not a subjective term. In marketing, a major market is called a DMA, a designated market area. And literally what it means in layman's terms is how far a television signal reaches. Okay? So, for example, if I live and work in Raleigh and I turn on the local news and I'm getting my local news, weather, sports broadcast to me from Raleigh, then I'm in the Raleigh market. But you know and I know that I don't actually have to live in Raleigh to pick up the Raleigh news, right? I can probably live 100 miles to the north or south or east or west, and sooner or later I'm going to be in the Charlotte market. And sooner or later I'm going to be in, you know, Greensboro or something like that. But the point is, every single one of us lives in a market. If you get the news, you live in a market. Whatever market you're in, whatever news you get is the market that you're in. There are 211 television markets in the United States, 211. And every single one of them, with no exceptions, every single one of them, from the most remote corners of Idaho and Wyoming to Vermont and New Hampshire, every single one of them, the majority of the child population is non-white. Now, what about non-Hispanic whites? Have you ever heard that term and sort of wondered, what the heck does that mean? Non-Hispanic whites. It means white people. It means whites because white is not because Hispanic is not a race, it's an ethnicity. You can be white, black and Hispanic, you can be white and Hispanic, you can probably even be Asian and Hispanic, although I haven't yet met anyone who is. But if that confuses you, if you're like black and Hispanic, how does that work? Think Dominicans, right? If you're from the Dominican Republic, then you're black and you're Hispanic. But most Hispanics are white. By far, there are more white Hispanics than black Hispanics. So if you ask most Hispanics, what are you? Most will say, I'm Hispanic. If you go, yeah, I know you're Hispanic, but what race are you? Then most will say, well, I'm white, because most are. So if you were a research person, and let's say you wanted to determine how many hours of sleep black people get a night versus white people versus Hispanics versus Asians versus Native Americans, then out of the white population, you would have to extract the Hispanics to just get whites. You with me? I am a non-Hispanic white. I'm a white woman, and I'm not Hispanic. Like I said, white people. Now you know. So whites are in fact the majority of the population, but whites have dropped from 69% of the population to 64% over the last 10 years. That is a huge drop. You know and I know that all populations increase numerically in size, right? Unless there's a plague that wipes us out, we grow, we populate. So if all populations grow numerically in size, but a population is shrinking in composition, that is a big shift. So whites have dropped from 69% to 64%. Furthermore, whites are aging fast. And whites are the oldest of all of the racial and ethnic groups, and the only racial and ethnic group with a median age that's over 40. All other racial and ethnic groups have a median age under 40. And here's the kicker. Whites will be the minority by the year 2041. Now, that may seem like that's a long way away, but that's 28 years from now. I make my living doing this kind of presentation. I know these numbers like the back of my hand. But if you would have even asked me even 5 years ago, Kelly, in your lifetime, do you think that you'll live to see whites become the minority? Just 5 years ago, I would have said, nope, no way. I know that day is going to come, but I am probably not going to live long enough to see that day. But as I said, that's 28 years from now. I'm 52. So assuming I can make it to 80, and I think there's every reasonable chance that I can, I will live to see that day. And so will all of you. Because I can look around this room and I can see that everybody here is pretty much my age, give or take 20 years. Yeah. Multiracial Americans, you know, what if you're Mariah Carey or you're Tiger Woods? You know, what box do you check when you're filling out the census? You know, the racial categories don't necessarily apply here if you're multiracial. You know, if I'm not mistaken, Mariah Carey is black, white, and Hispanic, and Tiger is black, white, and Asian. So if you're filling out the census information and you're one of those individuals, what box do you check? Well, the cool thing about the census is, and the census only has two jobs. They only do two things, count and project. Right? That's all they do. Count and project. That's their job. Count and project. So if they're all about people because they count us and then they project population numbers and project growth numbers and things like that, then as people have changed, the census has had to change too. And in 1990, the census added the category of multiracial Americans for the very first time. So now we actually have a way to track the growth of this group. So multiracial Americans now account for just about 9 million people, and that may not seem like a whole lot. It is in fact only 3% of the population, but check this out. It's a population that's grown by 25% in the last 10 years. The total population only grew by 9%. So the multiracial population is growing nearly 3 times as fast as the total pop. Now, a big part of this is the growth of different racial and ethnic groups and people working together, and you meet and fall in love with whoever you meet and fall in love with. So if you're a multiracial individual, as these two individuals are, and then you have children, as these two individuals do, then are your children not multiracial? I don't know. I'm thinking another few generations we're all just going to be taupe. We're going to be taupe. And that's because, it sort of sounds like I'm making a joke, but I'm really not. I mean, you've heard of the graying of America, right? That we're getting older, like literally more gray hair. Well, we're also becoming a darker skinned nation. We are not becoming a more Asian nation. We're not becoming a more Native American nation. We are becoming a darker skinned nation, led in large part by the growth of the Hispanic population, African American populations, and Middle Eastern populations. Isn't that the most disturbing picture ever? It's like, I don't know which is creepier, the guy or the dolls, I don't know. But anyway, you'd have to be living under a rock in this country not to be paying attention to the growth of the Hispanic population, and especially in North Carolina. In North Carolina, your state experienced the greatest growth of the Hispanic population of all 50 states. And so just to give you a couple of quick numbers, because it's been in your media every single day, you know that the Hispanic population is now over 50 million in the United States. But if you're anything like me, intellectually I know that that is a big number, but conceptually I have a hard time getting my head around that that number. I'm really not that wired into numbers. So it helps me to have a framework and some context. Here's some context for you. 50 million Hispanics means that the United States is now the second largest Hispanic country in the world. This should be a huge aha moment. This is the second largest Hispanic country in the world. That is why you are not going to hear anything less about the growth of the Hispanic population in the coming years. Because this is not a fad, it's a trend. The difference between a fad and a trend is fads come and go, like fashion. Trends don't come and go. Trends are shifts, trends are movements. Here's a little bit more context for you. 50 million means that 1 out of 6 people in the United States is Hispanic. 1 out of 6. But check this out. As we look at people under the age of 18 years old, children, that ratio shifts to 1 in 4. 1 in 4. Now think about this. 1 out of every 4 people in this country under the age of 18 is Hispanic. Who do you think your future customer is going to be? And for that matter, who do you think your future coworker is going to be? If 1 out of 4 people is Hispanic, then increasingly your future customer and coworker is going to be Hispanic. But I don't want you to dismiss this and go, oh, but they're kids. You know, they're 6 years old. We don't have to worry about selling to them or employing them for another decade. We got time to figure this out. Not necessarily, because every 30 seconds a Latino turns 18 in the United States. So where are you in your life when you're 18? Out of high school. Right? Out of high school. Definitely finish with school and either entering the workforce or going off to college, et cetera. But especially in terms of financial needs, you don't think their financial needs start to change pretty dramatically in your 20s? And the next 2 decades are incredibly formative relative to financial needs. So this is a map that shows the growth of the. We don't have to worry about selling to them or employing them for another decade. We got time to figure. So where are you in your life when you're 18? Out of high school. Right? Out of high school. Definitely finish with school and either entering the workforce or going off to college, et cetera. But especially in terms of financial needs, you don't think their financial needs start to change pretty dramatically in your 20s? And the next 2 decades are incredibly formative relative to financial needs. So this is a map that shows the growth of the. We don't have to worry about selling for another decade. We got time to figure. So where are you? Out of high school. Right? Out of high school. Definitely finish with school and either entering the workforce or going off to college, et cetera. But especially in terms of financial needs, you don't think their financial needs start to change pretty dramatically in your 20s? And the next 2 decades are incredibly formative relative to financial needs. So this is where are you in your life when you're 18? Map that shows the growth of the. We don't have to worry about selling for another decade. We got time to figure. So we're ethnic diversity, and that is very, very important. But when we talk about how to market to people not like you, that is not the only way that you can be different from me, okay? So do you have children? I don't. All right? We're the same race. I can tell you're younger than I am, but let's just say that we were the same age, we're the same gender, okay? We could live in the same zip code, and we could even make the same household income, all right? And on all of those demographic measurements, age, gender, race, and income, and all that kind of stuff, we could be the same. But if you have kids and I don't, we are going to be different. Everything about us is going to be different, right? We're going to spend money differently. We're going to make decisions differently. The priorities and pressures on you are going to be very different than the priorities and pressures on me. Everything is going to be different, and that has nothing to do with race or ethnicity or any of those demographic standards. It has to do with parenthood versus non-parenthood. So my definition of diversity is a little bit broader than most people. That's why I call it people not like you. Because my definition of diversity is any way that you can be different from me. So here's my list of diversity. It's subjective. Your list could be very different. But here's some ways that I think we can be different from one another. Gender. Right? Men are different from women. And this is fact. I mean, obviously there's comedians who make their living riffing off of this, but it really is true. Women use something like 20,000 more words a day than men. It's true. This table's going berserk over here, yeah. I don't know. I know, my husband's always like, for you, Kelly, it's like 60,000, whatever. And gentlemen, I will tell you this, if you've got a chatty wife, I will tell you this, do not do this to her. Apparently, I was telling my husband about my day one time in like excruciating detail. I guess he'd had enough, because he goes like this to me. I'm like, what is that? He's like this. I'm like, are you trying to mute me? Slept on the couch for 2 nights. Anyway, don't do that. Also, aside from being more verbal, women are also more demonstrative. You know, we're much more likely to show emotions, and we're much more likely to hug and kiss, give you a hug, all that kind of stuff. We wear our heart on our sleeves. What about religious differences? That's a way that we can be different from one another, right? And political views. That's a way that we can certainly be different from one another. Age and generational differences. The matures are obviously very different from boomers, who are different from Gen X and Gen Y. And mark my words, in the coming years, you're going to start to hear a lot about Gen Z. The gay and lesbian market. Physical abilities, emotional abilities, mental abilities. What about rural versus metro? That would be huge in North Carolina, right? Someone who lives in a loft in Raleigh, you know, or Durham or whatever is going to be very different than someone who lives, you know, out in the country, you know, on the western part of the state. What about military and civilian? There's 2 totally different worlds, right? Completely different worlds. And racial groups, white, black, Asian, and Native American, those are the 4 races. Everything else is pretty much an ethnicity. I already talked about this, ethnic, linguistic differences. Hispanic is a race, not an ethnicity. But what about like Indian, if you're from India? If you're from India, then your race is Asian, but your ethnicity is Indian. What about nativity? I think someone who's foreign born would think of the world and the United States and look at all of the world and the United States with a very different lens than someone who's US born. What about life stage? And who would know this better than insurance professionals? A new mom or a new dad is in a totally different place than someone who's an empty nester, someone who's a college student, someone who's a retiree. What about lifestyle and affluence, right? The working poor are very different from the middle class, who are very different from the wealthy. And even core values. You know, someone who homeschools their child is very different than someone who does not. Someone who's an environmentalist or a vegan or a vegetarian. You know, if you take that plastic bottle of water and when you're finished drinking with it, you throw it into a recycling bin, that's the action that you're taking. But it usually manifests a larger set of values, right? I mean, I can tell a lot about you by the fact that you've actually, you know, taken that action. So these are all different ways that we can be different from one another. As I said, your list may be even more inclusive. One woman came up to me afterwards and she goes, I got one for your list. I said, what's that? And she goes, pet owners. I'm like, totally, yeah. Pet owners, very different than non-pet owners. Pet owners, it's a cult, you know, I really think so. And this is, again, subjective, but as a marketing professional, I look at all of these different markets, and here's some really, really hot market segments right now. There's by no means the only ones, but these are ones that I don't think you can ignore. The boomers, because they're large and affluent. By that I mean, of course, the largest population ever in American history and the most affluent. Their financial needs are changing dramatically right now. The Hispanic market, because it's new and growing. And, you know, I don't want to say new to everywhere, but new to places like North Carolina. I mean, your state did not really have a sizable Hispanic population 20 years ago, but today that's very, very different. The African American market, very loyal and lucrative as consumers. Gen Y, incredibly powerful as consumers, and of course a major sweet spot regarding financial and professional insurance needs now, but very elusive and hard for people to kind of reach them effectively sometimes. And women and moms, they're highly influential and extremely connected. So, how did I pick these different groups? Why did I pick these different groups? Well, it's not hard to feel the boomers' influence. I'm a boomer, and I can look around the room and see that there's a lot of other boomers here. Okay, Dockers are now the #1 selling brand of pants for men, eclipsing Levi's jeans. Levi's jeans was the #1 selling pair of pants for like 104 years, but now it's Dockers. What does that have to do with boomers? I'm sorry, but as you guys age, you need pleats too. Just saying. There go half of my evaluations right there. What about eyeglasses? You know, when I was a little girl, Uncle Ernie's eyeglasses were the grossest things ever, right? They were like these big Mr. Magoo glasses, right? They were ugly frames with these major, like 2-inch thick lenses, and they had the half moon on there. You know, they were like wearing magnifying glasses, you know? But as, of course, the boomers aged and we've all needed eyewear, well, then, of course, we've insisted on very stylish eyewear. And so glasses have become very cool. The frames are, like, really looking sharp. I can look around the room. Everybody's got glasses that look great, you know? And, of course, the lenses have become paper thin, and we'll pay extra to make that little half moon go away, because these aren't readers. No, I'm good. What about the yoga explosion? You know, back in the 90s, it was about having a hard body, right? Now today, it's just about being able to bend over. Yeah. I'm serious, man. What do you think makes you look old? It's this. I can't bend over, you know? Yeah. So, the popularity of adventure vacations, you know? The boomers are not just going to sit on the porch and knit into their retirement now. They've got time and they got money, right? The kids are gone, they got time and they got money, and they're doing the stuff that's on their bucket list, you know? They're doing the stuff that they've always wanted to do. So they are going on those African safaris, and they are taking bike tours through Italy and going mountain climbing. And they don't just have the money to go on the mountain biking tour through Italy. They've also got the money to get the personal trainer to get them into shape to go on that trip, and then they got the money to buy all the Patagonia gear that they're going to need to wear at one time on the trip. Yeah. What about, you know, the Hispanic influence? This is a picture that I took in Madison, Wisconsin, okay, hardly the Hispanic hotspot of the world. All right, for McDonald's Premium Fiesta Salad for the launch of this product. Now, this product didn't succeed, and it's not hard to say why. I know, looks like dog food on lettuce, right? Yeah. Here's the thing about it, too. I'm serious, look at that. And here's the thing, I mean, I'm not trying to diss McDonald's, okay? But that's the best that can look, right? When you make an ad for food, you got food stylists and they like make it look really good. So that's as good as that can look. Okay, so yeah. So anyway, the Premium Fiesta Salad was a taco salad. Now we all know what a taco salad is, right? You eat the salad and then you can break apart the little taco shell bowl and eat the bowl, okay? So you've got this taco salad that is clearly a Hispanic influenced food, and of course you're gonna give it a little Hispanic name. You're gonna call it the Premium Fiesta Salad. Well, if you've got a taco salad with a Latin name, then you're going to, of course, market it with a little bit of Latin flair. So let me tell you how the conversation went between the ad agency and McDonald's, because I got friends who work on the McDonald's account at ad agencies, and this is a true story. So the ad agency unveils this billboard concept to the client. They go, here's the billboard for the launch of the new product. Are you ready? It's Nuevo. Get it? Spanglish. One word English, one word Spanish. It's Nuevo. Spanglish. How cool is that? The McDonald's client is very nervous. They're like, do you really think that people are going to know that word Nuevo? And they're like, yeah, they're going to know. They're going to know that word because everybody's becoming like super familiar with just like basic Spanish, right? Amigo, dinero, Nuevo. Okay, they're going to know it. Clients like, they're not convinced. They're like, you know what, you only get one chance to launch a product, right? You got to launch it right. Are you sure that they're going to know that word? Yeah, people are going to know that word. They'll be able to figure it out. Could you put the word new in there just in case? I promise you that when you have new in a yellow circle with an exclamation point, that was something the client felt strongly about. But my point is, the reality is, even if you don't speak Spanish, this is clearly assuming that you've been exposed to enough Spanish that you can figure it out from a context standpoint. And because this is not McDonald's Hispanic marketing efforts, it is in fact their general marketing efforts, and you can tell that by the tagline, because the tagline's in English. So even in a place like Madison, Wisconsin, they were launching this product, banking on the fact that everybody's exposed to enough Spanish day in and day out that you can figure out that this is a new product. Feeling the African-American influence, you know, General Foods and Kraft identified key differences between African-American consumers and general market consumers. One of the things that they identified is that African-Americans tend to use cornbread rather than white loaf bread to make stuffing. Right? Now, I think this is, I mean, it's decidedly an African-American and non-African-American thing, but I also think it's a North-South thing, okay? Because I'm from the North, and then I moved to the South 26 years ago, and I had never even heard of cornbread until I moved to the South. I'm not kidding. I'm from Wisconsin. I mean, the first time somebody ever said cornbread, I was like, corn what? You know, so I think this is also kind of a North-South thing, but nevertheless, African-Americans also tend to refer to this food as dressing rather than stuffing. This is also a North-South thing, because dressing to someone like me from the North initially means past the Paul Newmans, okay? Salad dressing, you know? So this is a bit of a problem. If the name of your product is called stovetop stuffing, not stovetop dressing, then what do? Well, the first thing that they did was create a cornbread version of the product, but then they also marketed it specifically to African Americans with a tagline that said, the box says stuffing, but the taste says dressing. Now, you can feel the Gen Y influence all around us too, right? I mean, Gen Y invented texting, right? Everybody in this room texts. Everybody's had to, even if you're older and you are not necessarily prone to that, you had to learn how to text to communicate with your kids because they won't answer their phone. So, no, it's really true. They will respond to a text, but they will not, you know. Did you know that Generation Y considers a phone call, a personal phone call, an invasion of privacy? That's strong language. That is strong language. I mean, not just like a nuisance, an invasion of privacy. So don't call them, text them. They freak out anyway. They're like, my phone's making a noise. What does it do? So the Generation Y invented texting, and we all text now, and they invented the language that goes along with texting, things like, are you hungry for za, meaning, you hungry for pizza. Did you know that za has now made it into the Scrabble dictionary as a real word? Yeah, now I think it's like 28 points. Go for it. And they also invented emoticons. Emoticons are all those little symbols that we use in order to express ourselves, in an email or a text message. The smiley face, the frowny face, all that kind of stuff. And of course, these different abbreviations that make texting easier and faster for all of us. You know these. Laugh out loud. By the way, I don't know. Talk to you later. See you later. The other thing too that's changing though is literally products are being created to address this. Okay, so for example, this is a brand new product that is an umbrella that has finger grips. And the reason it has finger grips is because they don't want to even have to stop texting when they're walking and holding an umbrella. I'm not kidding. It's brilliant. Don't you wish you'd invented that? You feel bad now, don't you? Yeah, see? So think about it, because you can't talk, or you can't text and hold an umbrella, but if you've got the grip, then you can. So. And then what about the women's influence? I talked about moms and women. I call it the she-economy, okay? Women buy for their entire family and influence what their neighbors and friends buy as well, okay? And, there's a joke, of course, and, you've heard it in your business, that women make up 80% of the buying decisions. The reality is, I'm sorry, but it's 100%, okay? No, really, are you guys going to actually buy something that your wife does not want you to buy? No way, it's not worth it. And moms are blogging, okay? Mommy bloggers, and by the way, don't call them mommy bloggers, call them mom bloggers, but the vernacular in the industry is mommy bloggers. But if you actually know someone who is a mom and blogs, do not call her a mommy blogger. But moms are in fact blogging. They're blogging all over the place, and in fact, they are accounting for serious millions and millions and millions and millions of influential comments. And in fact, major advertisers are taking note of this, and they're like Fisher Price. Fisher Price will identify an influential mom blogger and send her product just so that she can try it out, because they know that if she likes it, she's going to write about it. So speaking of the blogs, 1 out of 3 bloggers is a mommy blogger. 18 million women with children read blogs at least once a month. And 1 in 4 moms has purchased a product because of a website or a blog that was favorable. And 60% of mom bloggers blog about brands that they love or hate. That's what they're blogging about. They're not just blogging about what it's like to be a mom. They're definitely blogging about that, but they're also blogging about the products and services that help them or don't help them. So, as I mentioned, my definition of diversity is any way that you can be different from me. But if you're different from me, then how do I know how to market to you? Because I don't know what it's like to be you. I do not know, and I will never know, what it's like to be a guy. I don't know what it's like to be in the military. I don't know what it's like to be Asian. And I don't know what it's like to be a mom. And I don't yet know what it's like to be 80 years old. I don't know these things, but I'm a marketing person, and it's possible to create marketing plans that are effective for all of those different types of groups. But if I'm not those things, and the only lens that I have to look out at the world is my lens, and the only frame of reference I have is my frame of reference, then how do I put myself in the shoes of a guy, or an Asian person, or a military professional, or an 80-year-old? Or a mom. So I believe it's ultimately that what defines you and what makes you you is not the color of your skin or how old you are or anything like that. I believe that what makes you you is the values that you hold, the experiences that you have, your priorities. I firmly believe that if I can figure out what you value and what you hold dear as a priority, I can figure out how to get into your heart, your mind, and your wallet. So, no, I can, because people spend money on what they care about, right? That's what people spend money on. So, if you're going to understand someone who's not like you, it is, in fact, I think, the greater path and the easier path is to understand their priorities, their values, and the experiences that define them, because that's what makes you you. So, to illustrate this, let me try this exercise on you. To show you that perspective can change when asked the exact same question, okay? And the other thing you need to know is that perspective is never wrong. Someone's perspective is never wrong. It's like their opinion. You can have a different opinion than me, and I might respectfully disagree with your opinion, but I can't tell you that your opinion is wrong. It's yours. You're entitled to hold whatever opinion you want, right? Your perspective is the same. I might have a different perspective, but I can't tell you that your perspective is wrong. So, try this exercise sometime, and you can see how different someone's perspective is when asked the same question. When asked to name how Kennedy died, matures and baby boomers will both say a gunshot wound in Dallas, right? Gen X will say a plane crash near Martha's Vineyard. And Gen Y will say Kennedy who? Or try this one. All right, come on, you matures. Who is Ron Howard? Opie, right? Matures will say Opie. Baby boomers will say Richie from Happy Days. And both Gen X and Gen Y will say an award-winning director. You see, everybody knows who Ron Howard is, but the way that we know him, the context that we know him, the perspective that we have on Ron Howard is different depending on who you are. And all of these things are true. And all of these things are valid. Ron Howard is all of these things, but the perspective that you see him and the way that you know him is different depending on who you are, what your context are, and what your experience are. So, very quickly, I'm going to run you through 4 different generations now, because everybody in this room is one of these. Generation Z is coming up. You're going to be hearing more about that in the next few years, but they're not even out of high school yet, so you're not going to hear about them just yet. They're not really making their mark as adult consumers yet. So everybody in this room is going to find themselves on one of the following 4 slides: matures, boomers, Gen X, and Gen Y. Now, I'm going to go through some very broad, iconic emotional drivers here. And my disclaimer is that anytime you take an entire generation and you go, boomers are like this, Gen X is like this, I don't want you, of course I'm stereotyping, we're not all like that. I don't want you to come up to me at the break and go, I'm a boomer and I'm not like that, okay? Well, there's always one in every bunch. So let me just start by giving you some broad generalizations. Matures are defined as those who are age 68 or older. The iconic entertainer for this generation was Frank Sinatra. Household income was about 40 grand, and the defining idea for this generation, duty. Duty to God, duty to country, duty to family, duty to neighbor, duty to community. And the style, team player, which goes along with duty, because how can I be dutiful if you can't count on me? Work is an inevitable obligation. Not necessarily a chore or drudgery, but this is not a generation that job hopped very much. What you often had was the guy who would go to work for the insurance agency, and 35 years later he was retiring and getting the gold wristwatch, as the retirement present. So this is not a generation that job hopped very much. What you often had was that guy who worked for a company for 35 years. So work was simply something that you did to support yourself and your loved ones. Education was a dream for this generation. By that I mean higher education, because financial aid had not yet been invented. So only the wealthy and the elite got to go on and get a college education. You reward yourself because you've earned it. Delayed gratification, what a concept. You want that new house, then you saved up enough money until you could afford that new house. You want that new car or truck, you saved up enough money, etc. Home stuff, Timex and milk and cookies. Timex was the first affordable wristwatch that every middle-class man could afford. It was a $10 wristwatch. And why milk and cookies? Because mom was there to make them. Her job was to be a full-time wife and homemaker, right? She wasn't in the workforce, that was her job. Money, put it away and pay cash. It is best not to owe money to anyone. That was the philosophy. Family, traditional nuclear family. Mom, dad, kids, dog, white picket fence. And technology, slide rules and rotary phones. I know, I told you how old I am, I'm 52. I'm not old enough to remember slide rules, but I'm married to a guy who's 58 and he does, okay? But I totally remember rotary phones. My parents had a summer home in northern Wisconsin. It was very rural. We had a party line at our cottage. Remember those? 7 families all sharing the same phone. Get off the phone, kids! So frankly, a private line, even if it was a rotary phone, was a technological advancement. Pardon me. Now, compare the matures with the boomers. As I said, I'm a boomer, and I can look around this room and see that there's a lot of other boomers. Boomers are defined as those who are 49 to 67 right now, and the iconic entertainer for our generation, Mick Jagger, or as I like to call him, the dancing skeleton. I love Mick. My gosh, he's 69 years old now, But that man is so skinny, he needs a cheeseburger, Household income skyrockets to the most affluent generation ever in American history, about 60 grand. And the defining idea for this generation, individuality. Or as I like to call it, team me. The Me Show, starring me, with special guest star, me. But enough about me. What do you think of me? We are self-absorbed. I mean, I'm not editorializing. I am one of this generation, but we've had it pretty good in our lives. You guys know what the DSM is, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual? If any of you have kids, it is the psychiatric industry's, Grey's Anatomy, okay? It is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of mental disorders and personality disorders, okay? So a lot of schools use them to help with, autistic kids and special needs kids and stuff like that. So this is the American Psychiatric Association's, book, okay? It is their Bible, if you will. Did you know that last year they took out 9 personality disorders from the DSM? Took them out, completely gone, eradicated, like polio. They don't exist anymore. One of those disorders was narcissistic personality disorder. Do you know why they took it out? Because everybody has it. If everybody has it, it's not a disorder anymore, right? The very nature of a disorder is you're in the minority. There's something wrong with you. No, we all have it. Anyway, we're all self-absorbed narcissists, and work is an exciting adventure. Because when we got out of college and school, the economy was more robust, it was easier to get ahead. And one reason it was easier to get ahead was because education had moved in one generation from being a dream to being a birthright with the advent of financial aid. And so then you reward yourself because you deserve it, right? It's not because you've earned it. No. You deserve it, right? We can justify anything. And home stuff, Casio, remember that brand, right? The first digital watches, digital calculators and all that. And milk and Oreos. Why Oreos? Because mom went back to work, right? She's not there to make the cookies anymore. And money, buy now, pay later. Hello, credit cards, right? And family disintegrating. Highest divorce rate then and still. This is also the generation that took the stigma off of divorce, because there used to be a stigma, right? I mean, I can remember when I was a little girl, nobody was divorced. There was a woman on my block who was divorced, and my mom used to talk about her like this: she's divorced. Like she couldn't even bring herself to say the words. So it's not that big of a stigma anymore. Technology, calculators and touch-tone phones. Do y'all remember, do any of my fellow boomers here or older, do y'all remember getting your first touch-tone phone? It's a big deal, man. I was 7. We had a touch-tone phone. It was tan and it was in the den. And I'm 7. I'm one of 4 kids, right? So me and my brothers and sisters are like going crazy with this phone because it was the coolest thing. Beep, 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 beep. We're playing Mary Had a Little Lamb on the phone. Remember that? Calling Bangladesh, I'm sure, whatever. So we're playing Mary Had a Little Lamb and, pushing all these buttons. It was so cool. And you remember the pound button and the star button? They didn't do anything. They didn't do anything for like a decade. Right? Nothing, not even a tone. So I'm 7. I mean, get this in your mind, little 7-year-old Kelly. I'm 7 years old. I'm playing with the phone. I'm pushing the pound button and the star button. Nothing's happening. I look at my mom and I go, "Mom, what are these for?" And she said, "We don't know, but something's coming." It's like, oh my God. Holy smokes, you do not do that to a 7-year-old. I was afraid of the phone for like 10 years. All right, Generation X. Who are my Xers? Give me some X here. Yeah, did you guys know why your generation is called X? 10th generation of Americans. Yeah, throw that out at your little cocktail party tonight, yeah. All right, iconic entertainer for you, Madonna. She just will not go away. And household income drops to $49,500, one of the first generations ever in American history to not do as well as previous generations. This is big. Defining idea, diversity. First generation ever in American history to not know segregation and not live through the civil rights movement. They've grown up with diverse playgrounds all their lives. Style, entrepreneur. Why? Because work is a difficult challenge, right? Remember in the 90s when Gen X was coming of age, .bomb, .gone, WorldCom, Enron, all these companies that just imploded. And education then is a way to get there and make a mark for yourself. You reward yourself because you need it. It's almost like a bit of self-soothing. And home stuff, Swatch, right? I can always tell who the Xers are. Their faces just light up. I don't know what it is about that word. It's like the happy word. I can go anywhere in the world and I can go Swatch and people are like, "I have 4!" And milk and snack walls, remember those? We thought they were going to make us skinny. They taste like dirt. They don't make you skinny if you eat a whole box of them. Money, they are cautiously conservative. Doesn't matter whether they make a lot or make a little, they try to save what they can because they know that the rug can get pulled out from under you. And family, latchkey kids, remember that term? right? Many of this generation, in fact, most, more than half, were raised as children of divorce, and that mom or that dad was not necessarily home when they got home from school, so they learned to let themselves in, make themselves a sandwich, do their own homework. And technology, spreadsheets, and cell phones, right? We start to see the first real computer generation. And Generation Y, age 18 to 35, iconic entertainer Lady Gaga. Whether you like her or not, she represents everything that this generation really cares about and really stands for. Self-expression, individuality, creativity, tolerance, diversity, weirdness. Household income, many are not actually earning yet, so they're still living in your basement. So we don't have an income number here, but they control $160 billion in spending. But the defining idea for this generation is authenticity. You better be the real deal with Generation Y, because they know what the real deal is. And the reason they know what the real deal is because they're very worldly. They've had the internet in their bedroom all of their lives, right? They've become very sophisticated. They see work as a chance to do some good. They don't just want to make a living, they want to make a difference. Education is an incredible expense. They're not rejecting education, but they are in fact the first generation that has ever even questioned the value of an education, and they are seriously questioning it. They're going, $80,000 in student loans versus what I'm likely to make? I don't know if that's going to be a good investment, And especially because today, if you have a good head on your shoulders and a great idea and a great work ethic and a strong network of contacts, you don't necessarily have to have a college education in order to be successful. Reward yourself because you can share it. Their experiences mean more to them when they can share them with others, and if they can't share them actually with their friends, then they can at least post it on Facebook and Instagram and share their experiences that way with their 10,000 friends. And home stuff, they don't wear watches, they use their phones to tell time, right? And it's all about their gadgets. In terms of money, their philosophy is live for today, earn it to spend it. Family, merged families, blended families. Really for this generation, the definition of family has changed. Many were raised by single parents, divorced parents, step parents, gay parents, grandparents, people who aren't their parents. It doesn't matter. For this generation, the definition of family is who do you love, who loves you back. And technology, all access, and text messaging. Oh, and the other thing that's important to know about this too is, and I think this is really important for insurance, is for them now means right now. Like right this second now. Now. So if they call you for an auto quote, they don't want you to get back to them at the end of the day. They want you to get back to them in an hour, right? Because they're gonna move on otherwise. So the bottom line is, what I've shown you here is that the perspective on all of those things can be very, very different. And even that list of things was the same, but the perspective is different. There is no more Joe Consumer anymore. This is a quote from a guy, Peter Francesi, and I couldn't agree with this quote more. He said, the concept of an average American is gone and probably forever. The average American has been replaced by a complex, multidimensional society that defies simplistic labeling, and I couldn't agree more. So how in the heck then do you market to people who are not like you? How do you grow your business then with marketing to people not like you? Well, the first thing that you've got to do is you've got to be relevant. So not to be like sexist here, but I'm going to direct this question to my sisters in the room, the women. We shop more than guys do typically. So ladies, do we all agree that Target rocks? Yeah? Anybody here think that Kmart rocks? Yeah. Okay. So that's a pretty safe bet, though. I can say that anywhere. And it's not just us. I mean, Target is doing very, very well and is opening up stores right and left all across the country, and Kmart is closing stores all across the country. So it's not just us who feel that way. And as a marketing person, I have struggled with this, and I've gone, why? Why? Why do we love Target so much? We don't just like Target. We're passionate about it, right? Target. There's even that Facebook page that says, I went to Target for shampoo and came out $600 later. It's like unbelievable. You can't just go in there and buy something. You got to have everything. I believe it's because what Target figured out and what Kmart has failed to do, but what Target figured out is how to give us what we want. How to figure out what we want and then give it to us. Now, that sounds like it's really easy, and it's not. It's a simple concept, but it's not easy. Simple and easy are not the same thing. The simplest exercise in the world is the push-up. There's nothing simpler. Lay on the ground and push your body up, using your own weight as resistance. There's nothing simpler, but it's not easy to do a push-up. So it's simple, but it's not easy. So this is simple and not necessarily easy too, but Target nailed it. Because what they figured out is that we don't want cheap stuff. We don't want cheap stuff. What we want is style on a budget. Just because I'm on a budget doesn't mean I don't have good taste. Just because I'm on a budget doesn't mean I don't appreciate good design, right? So they have cool stuff. They have really cool stuff, and what that gives us as consumers is what I call value with dignity. You know, we all want to save money. Everybody likes to save money no matter how wealthy you are. We all like a deal. But I don't want to be embarrassed about saving money, right? I want to have some dignity in that. So if you say to me, oh, cute tank top, Kelly, I'm like, I know, $12, Target. I'm bragging about how little I spent, right? Now imagine this. Cute tank top, Kelly, I know, $12, Kmart. No. No way. It's got Kmart juice on it. No way. The other thing that you got to do is you got to build your infrastructure. Just because you say, you know what, we want to go after moms, or we want to go after Hispanics, or we want to go after boomers, or whatever market you want to go after, then you got to actually sit back and look at your business and go, okay, but are we really set up to do business with that particular consumer? So if you're going to have diverse efforts, then take a look at your infrastructure and see if you are really set up to do business that way. So for example, the Angelica Theater in Dallas, where I live, is an art movie house theater. Now, if you're in the movie business, what is the deadest time of the week? Mornings, right? Even the seniors don't come out until the matinees kick in the afternoon, right? And yet you have everything. You have the movie, you have the milk duds, you have the popcorn, you got everything to have a show, you just don't have an audience. So they started thinking to themselves, who could we get to come to a movie in the morning? How could we drive revenue in the morning and therefore grow our business? And they thought, new moms. New moms. If you're a new mom, you're still the same woman that you were before you had a baby. So if you are a film lover, you're still a film lover. You still have the same interests. It's just that now you have a baby. And if you're a new mom, then chances are you're one of two things. You're either a stay-at-home mom or you're on maternity leave. Either way, you can come to a movie in the morning. But you know what? For moms, it's really hard to go to a movie in the morning. It's hard to get out of the house. You got to figure out the whole child care thing. And if you don't figure out the child care thing, and you take your little bundle of joy to the movie theater, and then your baby starts fussing, then people go, shh, and they hate you, right? So women just don't go. It's just honestly too much hassle, so they don't go. And they thought, well, what if we could change that? What if we could make a mom-friendly environment where women feel very welcome bringing their baby? We're going to call it the Crybaby Matinee. It's timed for 11 o'clock in the morning, baby's first nap of the day. No men allowed, so that if women want to breastfeed, they can breastfeed comfortably and not feel uncomfortable about that. Baby changing area in the back of the theater, so that if you have to change a diaper, you don't have to miss 1 minute of the movie. You can just step right back there and change a diaper. They bring the lights down low, but not totally dark, so if you got to dig around in the diaper bag, you can find what you need. Oh, and guess what? If your baby starts fussing, chances are the other moms are going to be pretty sympathetic, right? Place is absolutely packed. You know what the one thing they didn't think about, though, from an infrastructure standpoint? Where in the world do you put 300 badass strollers, right? Those things are like SUVs, man. Seriously, you got all these women that are going to come with their strollers. They hadn't thought about that. So as brilliant as this concept is, they hadn't thought it through all the way. Today, they now have a security guard in the parking lot with a roped-off area for stroller parking. So there's no way you can put it all in the lobby. And this isn't the only company that struggles with the infrastructure. I don't know if you've ever heard of this company, the Container Store, right? Yeah, right. Passionate consumers, right? Yeah, I want to contain things. Yeah. So the Container Store is exactly what it sounds like. They're storage solutions, right? Home, office, garage, kitchen, you name it. They finally opened a flagship store in New York a few years ago in Manhattan. Brilliant. I don't know what took them so long, because what's the one thing that New Yorkers have none of? Space, right? I mean, it's such a no-brainer. So they're going to help New Yorkers organize their closet or their kitchen, etc. It's such a no-brainer. And sure enough, their flagship store, the first 12 hours that it was open, it was doing great. But also in the first 12 hours, they realized that they had made two rough mistakes. The first one was people kept coming in and asking for their purchases, may I please have a bag with handles? Handles? None of their bags have handles. Because everywhere else in the world, you buy stuff at the Container Store and then you take it out to your car and you put it in the car. But people in New York don't have cars, they walk. And if you have ever walked carrying a bag in your arms, it gets very heavy very fast. But you can walk for miles with, a bag with handles. The second thing that they realized that they had failed to do was people kept asking, can I just have this delivered? Delivered? We don't have a delivery system. But the thing about New Yorkers is they're used to paying for delivery. They will pay $20 delivery on a $10 item. Because if I buy you a birthday present and I buy you a really big birthday present, so I need a really big box. And I go there and I buy a really big box to put your present in. But this box is so big, what am I supposed to do? I can't walk down the street with this box. I can't even get it into a taxi. You know what? I'll just have it delivered. So people in New York are used to paying for these delivery charges because that's just how they run their life. So despite the fact that the Container Store was dead on with the strategic brilliance of opening a store in Manhattan, they failed to understand how Manhattanites actually live. The other thing that you got to do is know your target. This goes along with that. Okay, so there is a wireless company that I'm betting a third of you have in this room, so they shall remain nameless. They came to us a few years ago and they said, we need your help with the Hispanic market. You know, we did something a few years ago in Miami and it just bombed, and so we need to try again. We need your help. So the first thing I said was, well, what did you do in Miami that bombed? And they said, I don't know, we did this big Cinco de Mayo promotion in Miami and it just bombed. And I was like, well, Cinco de Mayo is a Mexican holiday, and Miami's mostly Cuban. Maybe the Cubans don't give a flip about the Mexican holidays. You know, when was the last time that you showed up for Canadian Boxing Day? You know, it's not your day. You know, but they made a classic mistake of going, oh, it's in Spanish, it's one size fits all, and it's not. A better example is Bank of America partnering with AT&T in San Francisco, which is one of the largest Asian markets in the country, and they wanted to do this kind of cool co-branding thing. So check this out. If you opened up a checking account at Bank of America, then they gave you a free AT&T calling card that was preloaded with calls to Asia. Not Latin America, not Europe, Asia. Because chances are you got loved ones in Asia. And if you're an AT&T customer, then you got free checking at Bank of America. So they fed each other customers. Check this out. The goal was to open 1,500 new accounts. They opened 22,000. How'd you like to be the person who's like, yeah, that was my idea. Yeah. Beep, beep, just bring the bonus truck right up to my desk. Yeah. Also, understand different needs. You know, again, in the same way that perspective is different, needs are different, and people need what they need. And you can't tell somebody that what they need is wrong, because they need what they need. So, for example, Hispanic life insurance questions. We were doing some focus groups with Hispanic men for a major life insurance provider. And one of the things I will tell you about Hispanic men and life insurance is it's a pretty easy sell. It's a pretty easy sell. A lot of Hispanic men, particularly those who are foreign-born, they totally understand the importance of life insurance. That's why they are here, okay? As immigrants, they've moved to the United States for better opportunities for their loved ones. So therefore, if you talk to them and you say, so what would happen to you, Mr. Gonzalez, if something happened to you, right? What would happen to your family? What would happen to your loved ones if you weren't there to provide? They get it, and they want to protect everything that they've worked for. They want to protect their homes and their autos and their lives and all that kind of stuff. So life insurance is a fairly easy sell. The interesting thing was, as we were having these focus groups, now you know and I know how life insurance works, right? If you're my beneficiary and something happens to me, you get the check. Nobody sees and monitors how you spend that check. If you want to go buy a new house, you can do that. If you want to go to Vegas with the whatever, it's yours, okay? But they didn't understand that, and every single one of them was asking, okay, so if something happens to me and my wife gets the check, can she use the money to ship the body back to Latin America? They didn't want to be buried in this country. So again, you and I know that they can do anything they want with the money, but that gave us a huge insight, okay? Because that's not a comment that comes up with a lot of other consumer groups. So as a marketing firm, what we did was, in the marketing materials then, was we created a line about that. We talked about how, and so, you know, if something were to happen to you, your loved ones would have the security that goes along with having life insurance. You will be able to pay off your house, send your children to college, and ship your body back to your country of origin to be buried with your loved ones. Women want testimonials and customer reviews online. Women tend to trust what other women say, even if we don't know those women. I don't know why, but if I read a review that you put online, a testimonial or whatever, I tend to put a lot of faith and stock in what other women say. So if you've got happy, satisfied women customers, get a testimonial from them and put it on your website. Women will find that, and we will believe that. Also, tap into values. You know, as I mentioned, if I can figure out what you value, I can figure out how to sell you. I promise, it's that easy. If I can figure out what you value, I will know how to sell you. So, Generation Y, what they value is connectivity, and it stems from FOMO. FOMO stands for fear of missing out. Fear of missing out. They do not want to miss out on anything. Their connectivity means they're going to stay connected, they're not going to miss out on anything. If you ask them, What do you think you're going to miss out on? They're like, I don't know, something might happen, I might miss it, I don't know. They don't even know. And we kind of chuckle about that, but here's the deal, it's got broad business implications. Our nation's only passenger rail service is Amtrak. That's all we have. And yet it was this, 48 months ago when Amtrak came this close to going bankrupt, right? Like 48 months ago. Well, last year they reported record ridership and record profits, and they attribute a significant part of their financial turnaround to Generation Y riding the rails, particularly on the East Coast, where it makes a lot of sense to go from DC to Baltimore, from Baltimore to Philly, Philly to New York and Boston, and so on. Why is Generation Y riding Amtrak instead of flying? Because on Amtrak, I don't have to turn off my electronic equipment for 15 minutes of takeoff or landing. Also, be respectful. Even if somebody is not like you, you don't have to embrace their life, their lifestyle, etc., but you do have to be respectful of it. So this is an ad for Wells Fargo. It's featuring two guys grocery shopping, and the headline says, "With you when two accounts become one." I thought this was a very powerful ad because it's very respectfully talking about a key moment in any serious relationship. Because you don't combine finances with someone you're dating. You combine finances with someone you're building a life with, and they're making a nod to that. So of course, if you're going to do gay marketing like that, then you've got to do lesbian marketing, and so it's the same actual ad for two women. The other thing I will tell you, though, is that you can't do this kind of thing, and if you're going to do this, then you got to walk the walk and not just talk the talk, right? Because if you're going to put the welcome mat out, let's say for same-sex couples, then what happens when that same-sex couple comes in to your agency to do business with you, right? So you can't do that, and then they'll say it's met with this, okay, at your agency, So if you can't do something sincerely, then don't do it. And communicate on their terms, whatever their terms are. Do you know this brand, Line-X? Spraying bed liners for pickup trucks, right? The chemical coatings. This is not a sexy business. They have like 10,000 fans on Facebook, and it's a chemical coatings company. They're really weird. They have fun posts, though. They actually spray painted, chemically coated a cockroach one day. Sort of interesting. Yeah, really the grossest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, so I was working with them on their Facebook pages, and one guy had posted on their Facebook page, "Hey, Line-X, do you have a dealer in Wilmington, Delaware?" Now, they have 3,500 dealers all over the country. So when you go to their website, linex.com, the first thing that you see, center, front, center, larger than life, can't miss it, is dealer locator. Right? So in the time that it took this guy to actually go over to Facebook and post, "Hey, do you have a dealer in Wilmington, Delaware?" he could have gone over to their website and gotten his own answer. But my point is, he didn't go to their website. He went to Facebook. So and I know what was happening. Here's a guy that's puttering around on Facebook for a couple hours. It pops into his head that maybe he wants a bed liner. He jumps on over to their page and just posts it. So did they say, "Hey, idiot, the entire dealership lineup is on our website"? No. They said, "Hey, Bob, thank you so much. Yes, as a matter of fact, we do have a dealer in Wilmington, Delaware at 1234 Main Street. And for anyone else looking for a dealer, you can see the complete lineup of dealers on our Line-X website." But my point is, if someone emails you, you email them back. If they call you, you call them back. If they Facebook you, you Facebook them back. If they tweet you, you tweet them back. If they show up in your office, then you talk to them. If they text you, you text them back. But you've got to communicate on their terms these days, because people have a lot of ways of communicating, and they will naturally gravitate to the way that they prefer. And understand that social is everything, and I am not just talking about social media. That's a given. I'm not even going to spend much time on this. I'm just going to talk about social everything, okay? So what's your name? Gary? I'm going to call you Mike. Okay, so, no, Gary. So Gary and I are friends, let's say, okay? So I go up to, is there anything that is less social in the world than going up to a vending machine and having something dispensed? There's absolutely no human interaction with that, right? I mean, you stick money in, you push a button, and it dispenses something that you want. No human being required. Pepsi's trying to change that, though, because, again, of our affinity towards all things social. The Pepsi social machine is now a touch screen, okay? So the Pepsi social machine goes like this. I go up, I swipe my card, I get my Diet Pepsi. It dispenses my Diet Pepsi, and then the next screen says, "Do you want to send your friend a drink?" Yeah? Oh my gosh, that sounds so fun. I never even thought about that. I would love to send Gary a drink. Oh my gosh, my friend Gary is having a tough week. This guy could use a drink. He is about to get fired and he doesn't even know it, okay? So yeah, I'm going to send my friend Gary a drink, and because we're friends, I've got his number in my phone, so I swipe again and I put Gary's number into the phone. And shazam, Gary gets a message that says, "Hi Gary, Kelly sent you a gift. Use this code to redeem at the nearest Pepsi social vending unit, code 1234 enjoy." That's a text message that he gets. How cool is that? Now, I call this surprise and delight. And it's surprise and delight for both of us, because I was just going up to a vending machine thinking I'm getting a drink, right? And all of a sudden I get to have a social interaction. I don't even have to be in the same room to know that Gary's going to have fun with that. It's just fun for me to even give somebody a drink, and I'll spend $1 doing that, right? But you also know it's going to be surprise and delight for Gary too, because Gary's going to be sitting in some boring insurance meeting somewhere, you know, and on his phone all of a sudden he's getting a text message that says, "Kelly sent you a drink." How cool is that? I'm waiting for them to come up with a margarita machine. That's going to be my drink. Yeah, and you want to use these consumer insights too. Consumer insights, whether it's research that you read online or that you get from your providers, they all have research. You know, drink this stuff up, folks. Those consumer insights can really take your business a long way. I've already talked about how women will trust what other women say, and Hispanics, you know, with Hispanics, great customer service trumps mistakes. And this is a really important insight, because who amongst us doesn't make mistakes, right? You know those receipts that you get on the bottom of a receipt, you know, I don't know, at Target or, you know, Chick-fil-A or whatever, and it'll say, "Take this survey online and you'll get $2 off your next sandwich." Well, the company that does that is based in Kansas City. They work with major retailers for customer experience measurement. And they wanted to find out if Hispanics had a very different perspective on customer service than non-Hispanics. So you know Chick-fil-A, that brand, right? Greatest waffle fries ever. So they found that if Hispanics went into Chick-fil-A and were greeted with incredible, great customer service, I'm talking like warm and friendly smile, eye contact, you make me feel like I belong here, you're just so incredibly nice to me, and then you screw up my order, right? You forget my fries, my sandwich is cold, you know, whatever. Hispanics still gave Chick-fil-A really high customer service marks despite the fact that the order was wrong. If they were treated well, then they gave really high marks despite the fact that the order was wrong. Non-Hispanics of any race or ethnicity, doesn't matter how nice you are to me. You forget my fries, you suck, okay? Seriously, harsh, man. It was like, you could be so incredibly nice to me, but those fries are not in the bag, you suck. Okay, this is an important insight, because if I were you and I was developing Hispanic customers, I would think it would be very important to know that if you really, really cover them up with good customer service and red carpet them, any little trespasses you make will be forgiven. And you got to be fearless. Anybody here have a Harley? Come on. 1, 2, who else? I got 2 Harleys? All right, but you guys all know the brand, right? You all know the brand. Harley has been in a world of hurting for the last few years. The recession was not kind to Harley, because nobody needs a Harley, right? A motorcycle, first of all, is not a primary method of transportation for most people, and if it is, you can get by with a Kawasaki or a Yamaha for a whole lot less money, right? Harleys are up there. Nobody needs a $50,000 Harley. It is a product of passion and a purchase of passion. Harley will tell you that. The people who want a Harley, they want a Harley. Nothing else will do. So, for the last several decades, their core customer has been middle-aged, white, affluent baby boomer males. Right? The 2 of you? Yeah, okay. That's these 2, right? Middle-aged, white, affluent baby boomer males. And the problem is pretty much every white, middle-aged, affluent baby boomer male who wanted a Harley got one. And in fact, you guys are aging enough to the point where you're not riding as much. You're selling your bikes and you're storing your bikes, and Harley's in a world of hurting. So they're looking at their market and they see their customer base shrinking, and they're going, where are we going to get our new customers from? So they looked at African Americans, Hispanics, and they went, no. Neither African Americans nor Hispanics really index all that high in the purchase of motorcycles. Doesn't look like a big growth opportunity for us. What about young people? No, young people don't think Harley's cool, because every time they see a Harley, there's some dude with a long gray ponytail on the back, looks just like you, right? That's not cool, that's dad, right? So then they started looking at women, and they said, what about women? You know what, there's gotta be women who would love to ride a Harley. And sure enough, what they found is there's a huge market opportunity for women. There's lots of women who say, I'd love to ride, but you know what the #1 barrier for them is? in purchasing a motorcycle? I don't know how to ride. It's that simple. I don't know how to ride. If I don't know how to ride, what's the likelihood that I'm going to stop by your Harley-Davidson dealership on Saturday and say, show me a bike? 0. So they thought, well, we've got to teach women how to ride. If we teach women how to ride, then some of these women are going to become incredibly passionate about riding, and some of them will become passionate about Harley. So we're going to start organically and teach women how to ride. So they started doing free clinics on Saturdays at the Harley-Davidson dealerships for, if you know, a free class. No sales pressure whatsoever. Marketed as, if you have ever wanted to try to ride a motorcycle, this is your chance. No sales pressure. Nobody's going to try to sell you anything. This is your chance to explore riding. It's taught by, the class is taught by a female instructor, so women don't feel stupid asking questions. With the right size bikes, because some of those bikes, as my Harley dudes know, literally weigh 900 pounds, and the women weigh 140. They can't even lift these bikes. So they got the right size bikes. Then they have a fashion show, because Harley is just as much about the apparel as it is about the bikes. And then they have free refreshments, because we women don't go anywhere unless there's snacks, okay? Right? My sisters know, yeah, okay, show me the snacks. So they've got it all, right? They got a no pressure environment. They got a class taught by a female instructor. They got the right size bikes. They got the fashion show. They got the snacks. And on top of that, they offered free pole dancing lessons. Yeah, that guy drifted, but he's back. Oh, yeah. See, yeah, you got it. Pole dancing. Mm-hmm, yeah. So now, the thing about it is, and I want to just say this right up front, I'm not suggesting that this is a remedy for you guys. I don't want you to walk out of here and go, Kelly said we have to pole dance at my agency. No, no, no. No, it's not that. But what they found at Harley was that the kind of woman who wants to ride a motorcycle, that it is about something in here and something in here, rather than her demographic, definition, okay? It's about a spirit. She is a woman who likes a sense of adventure. She is a woman who is open to trying new things. She is a woman who loves an adrenaline rush. She is a woman who loves being outside. And most importantly, she is a woman who has a great sense of humor about herself and does not take herself that seriously. She is the kind of woman who would watch 5 minutes of pole dancing lessons and then be like, let me up there, I'll try that, okay? She's gonna have fun with it. She's gonna have fun with it. So hopefully you can see why this was right for Harley. But I've got a headline up there that says, be fearless. Harley is still a corporate bureaucratic entity like anything else. If you go to their headquarters in Milwaukee, people are backstabbing each other and trying to get ahead, like they are at any other company. Imagine the guts that it took for someone at Harley to raise their hand in a meeting and go, I have an idea. Pole dancing at the dealerships. Yeah. People get shot for ideas like that in corporate America, right? So somebody had to have the idea and have the fearlessness to speak up about it, and then someone else had to have the fearlessness to not kill it, right? To not say, that's a great, great ideas like that die all the time. So what I'm saying to you is, if you know that something is the right thing to do for a customer group, follow your instincts on this. You are instinctual people. If you know that something's right, no matter how weird it might seem to you, follow your instincts. And lastly, train for cultural sensitivity. As financial professionals, you are duty-bound to also, with your team at your agencies, to train your staff for cultural sensitivity. You cannot not do this, okay? Left to their own devices, people will not behave well. I can't make this stuff up. There is a law firm that my company works with in Kansas City. This law firm is like many others where the top people at the law firm, the partners, are older white guys. This is all across the country because there were not a lot of women and minorities that were attracted to law until the last few decades. So at a lot of law firms, if you look at the people who have 35, 40 years of experience, they're older white guys. They're the ones who have just been in that industry. And yet everybody coming out of law school today is very diverse. They have 600 associates at this law firm. Out of those 600, 150 are partners. Out of those 150 partners, 1 is a woman. 1. And she's white. They have no black partners, no brown partners, no Hispanic partners, no Asian partners, no Native American partners, etc. So they know they've got a diversity problem because everybody coming out of law school is very diverse. The other thing is, if you've ever known anybody who's gone to law school, then you know that the real money is in making partner. But it takes 5 to 8 years at most law firms to make partner. And during that 5 to 8 years, you will work like a dog. You will work like a dog. You will work 70 hours a week for 5 or 8 years, and then you will get the payoff, and it's worth it. But a lot of people coming out of law school take one look at the partnership, of this particular law firm, and they go, no way. No way am I going to invest 8 years trying to get ahead at a partnership, at a law firm where I don't see any partners who look like me. How do I know I can get ahead in this environment? Maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe they just don't promote people like me, okay? So to their credit, they're trying to change this. They have a mentoring program where they mentor their diverse associates, partnering them up with an older partner. So true story, the law firm partner takes the young associate out to lunch as part of this mentoring program, to see how they're doing and offer support. The partner's an older white guy, and the young associate is an African-American gentleman. And over the course of lunch, the partner says to the young man, where are your people from? Oh wait, there's more. So the young man says, Kansas City. And the partner goes, no, but where are your people from? The young man has no idea what this guy's even asking. He's like, I don't even know what he's talking about. Maybe he's talking about my grandparents or something. And so he says, Kansas City. Everybody in my family's from Kansas City. Everybody's always been from Kansas City. At which point the partner said, no, but what tribe in Africa are your people from? May I note that it's a law firm? You can get sued for that. If a guy who is a partner in a law firm whose job it is to keep people from being litigated against can say something that boneheaded, don't you think your own people can say something just as boneheaded, right? And my favorite of all time, from a focus group that we were doing with Sherwin-Williams wanted to talk to Hispanic men. Did you know that Hispanic men paint more than any other group? Any other group. More than black men, more than white men, more than women, more than Gen X, Gen Y. Any way you can segment consumers, Hispanic men outpaint them, okay? They're do-it-yourselfers. They paint the garage, the kitchen, the nursery, whatever. They buy a lot of paint. Sherwin-Williams wanted to talk to Hispanic men about their attitudes about paint. So we did focus groups for them in both Spanish and English, and one young man said, talking louder does not make me bilingual. Can't make this stuff up. Yeah. Can I help you? Yeah, it's going to snap him into English any minute. Just keep yelling at him. All right, marketing has to adapt, and again, it's not just racial and ethnic diversity, it's things like contemporary imagery. Did you know that 40% of people 18 to 35 have 4 or more tattoos? 40% of people 18 to 35 have 4 or more tattoos. So, my point is, if 40% of a generation is tatted, and not just tatted, heavily tatted, okay? Then why wouldn't you at some point want to start using imagery like that? Because that's what people of a generation at some point look like, okay? And financial literacy and educational efforts. Again, you're in a position to really, really teach people the right stuff. The baby boomers have done a terrible job with their Gen X and Gen Y offspring of teaching them financial services. They don't know anything, right? And Gen Y is especially very vulnerable to this. They know they need a lot of help. They just don't know where to go to get it. So community involvement is a big deal too. Are you the good guys? Are you picking up trash by the side of the road? Are you going green at your agency and recycling? All of this kind of stuff is marketing information that you should be putting on your website, because people don't just want a transaction with you. They want to know that you're the good guys, and they want to identify with you. And mobile is hot. If your website has not been optimized for mobile, then you have got to do that. You have to do that. Everybody in this room, I'm betting, has a smartphone, every one of you. And if you have ever pulled up a website on your smartphone or on your iPad, whatever, that has not been optimized for mobile, then you know it's a drag, because it's too clunky and it's too slow, the graphics are too heavy. The websites today are not even being built that are not optimized for mobile, but if your website's a little bit older, just talk to your provider. They'll either do it for peanuts or they're going to do it for nothing, literally nothing, because it's not a big deal. But you've got to optimize your website. I promise you that 36 months from now, nobody is going to be carrying around a laptop. Right? Nobody. That's why tablets are doing so well, right? Because sometimes a phone is just too small, but a laptop is too clunky, so the iPad is perfect. So nobody's going to be carrying around that stuff. And you do want to be the good guys. You want to market your social consciousness. I know that you are the good guys. In your local communities, you're doing all kinds of good stuff. So like I said, whether it's green efforts or whether, are you having a blood drive at your agency once a year? Are you donating your old computers to your local schools? Are you planting trees by the side of the road? Whatever you're doing, donating to the Little League, buying soccer jerseys for the school team, whatever you're doing, put that out there. Make sure that a tab on your website says community involvement. Because again, I don't just want to buy insurance from you. I want to know that you're the good guys, and I want to feel a kinship with that. And here's a great verbatim from a focus group one time where someone said, you know, we don't need any more information. We need advice. And this is why you have the greatest job security of all, because there is this thing called the internet. I can get more information out there than I can ever consume in my lifetime, but I don't need just information. What I need is a guide, right? I need somebody to interpret that information for me and show me what's best for my needs and how that fits in with my family budget and all that kind of stuff. And that is why insurance professionals, you know, will never, ever, ever be outsourced or gone, because people don't just want information, they want advice. And the new mantra in marketing is that helping beats selling. Again, if you advise me, I'm going to buy from you because you help me. You didn't just sell me. You help me, okay? So the minute that you can help somebody, that you can teach them something that illuminates something for them. The first time that anybody, my insurance professional, ever talked to me about umbrella insurance, I almost fell down on the floor and kissed his feet. No, seriously, no one had ever talked to me about that before. And my insurance professional was over at my house talking to me and my husband, you know, working out all of our stuff or whatever, and he looks around, we got a nice house, you know, I've got a business, I mean, we're doing well, and he's like, you have a lot of assets here, you have a lot to protect. He was like, has anybody ever talked to you about umbrella insurance? And I'm like, no, tell me about that. Once he told me about that, I could not get the checkbook out fast enough. I mean, seriously, this guy did me a solid, but the point is, he gave me helpful advice. He didn't just sell me something. So again, you know, we don't just need information, we need advice. So, very quickly, I want you to turn to your customer, or turn to your neighbor. I want you to just take a minute or two. I want you to turn to your neighbor right now. Anybody at your table, if you haven't met them, introduce yourself. Take a minute and talk about a customer segment that you have not tapped into that this session may have illuminated for you and what you might be able to do. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't
So I
know.
can give them,
Whatever you want to do.
well,
You're doing great.
all right, I'm going to give you guys just a few more minutes, and then we're going to do a couple of share outs or whatever. So just wrap up your conversations in the next 2 minutes or so.
my phone.
Dude,
Is it the last one in this room?
it is. It's the last one in this century.
That's what I thought.
Dude, how can you do business on it?
I can't. Everyone else in my organization has these.
Do you have running water in your house?
Yeah, but
Plumbing?
not hot water heater.
Let me see that phone.
No, you're not going to take it away
I'm not
from
gonna take it. I
me.
just want to see one. I haven't seen one in 10 years.
Oh, give me a break. Give me a break. See, it's off, by the way. I have an answering machine at home, an answering machine in the office, and emails at the
Fax
office.
machine, too.
The office?
When was the last time you got a fax?
I can't remember.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
You were talking about DMAs.
Yes.
I was a appointed planner years ago in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. We did SMSAs, Standard Method Process. That's marketing.
That's a marketing tool, right.
Well, let me tell you something. This county right here, the federal government and all its great wisdom decided to throw North Carolina and speaking with Fairfax County in the same area. Two states.
Crazy. Yeah. There's a couple other DMAs in Michigan, Indiana. They call it Michiana because South Bend.
Oh, they do? Yeah, they're so close, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the television signal doesn't necessarily adhere to a state line, you know?
I got you. I'd say, yeah.
Okay. All right, how you guys doing? Did you figure out something? Did any of this spawn a little creative juices flowing about like maybe a market segment that you haven't ever really thought about or pursued, that maybe this session has given you some ideas on things that you could do? Anybody? Come on, somebody share out here. Come on, somebody at this table, you must have come up with something. No?
Who's talking about you?
Me? What were we? They were talking about me. I'm moving on. All right. You're not following the rules. Did you guys come up with anything? Here we go. Gary.
Yes.
Gary, my
Yes.
Pepsi social dude. Yeah.
Okay.
Talk to me, Gary.
Well, we have a lot of Hispanic in our community,
Yep.
and we actually talked to a young lady, but we found out she was illegal, so we couldn't hire her.
Okay.
But we did, explore that a little bit to
Right.
see if someone like that would really be able to better market for us.
Absolutely.
So, but we're still struggling with that and trying to figure out a way to do that.
Yep. One thing I want to address on that is the staffing thing is an absolutely huge opportunity. If you want to market to people not like you, one of the fastest ways you can do that without actually doing any traditional marketing, spending any money advertising or marketing, is by hiring someone from the target group. So if I want to, if I want to reach out to women, then get somebody on staff who's a woman. If I want to reach out to Hispanics, then get somebody on staff who's Hispanic. If I want to reach out to senior citizens, then get somebody who's older who understands what it's like to be a senior citizen, and so on and so forth. That staffing is absolutely huge because it can actually create market momentum for you without ever really spending a dime, because people all know each other, right? And so we travel in different circles, and so once people say, well, where do you work, or what do you do? Then I say, I work for the XYZ agency, and you ought to come over and spend some time with us, and there's an inherent trust factor in there. So you're on the right track, absolutely, and just because that woman was undocumented, do not let that deter you from that being the right market opportunity and that being the right approach. I would say that you were dead on with those two things. You just, lucked, or you didn't luck out with the right individual, but keep on keeping on because you're on the right track. Anybody else? You guys, I heard you guys talking about something over here, no? Come on. Is you? Is it Hispanic? Did you come up with
I have used the testimonials from other women
Right.
in order to get me in the door.
There you go. Absolutely. Use testimonials from other groups or other people in order to validate what it is you're selling. People tend to trust other people like them. Anybody else? Anybody else find? Come on, you are not shy. You guys here are not shy. Look, I'm down among you. I'm roaming around. Help me out here. Did you guys come up with anything?
I think we came up with rounding out our products and
Okay.
picking up, like life insurance was something Richard and
So that's a market opportunity for you, life insurance. Weren't you historically offering that?
well, not myself, but I'm on the bond side.
Oh, this dude over here.
Well, we do offer that, but we were just talking about our accounts where we haven't, new opportunities that are out there in numerous accounts and other ways as well.
Yep.
Term life insurance.
Yep. Okay. So that's a good market opportunity then. If it's one that you haven't traditionally focused on or with as much emphasis, it can absolutely bring additional revenue to you because obviously you're successful even without focusing on that. So now you add that on top and it's like, just the frosting. Good. What else? Oh, I just kicked your purse. Sorry. What else? Somebody over here. Come on, you guys can't. Something? Did you come up with anything? Were we talking about sports? Whatever. Okay, I'm moving on. Did you guys come up with anything?
We did.
What'd you come up with?
Honestly, I think that we quickly need to realize that it is not just that Hispanic people and African American people and minorities, they are business owners, they are family members, they are, so our market strategy, our demographic, our people. I mean, it's not, it doesn't have to be, we don't necessarily have to seem like you're hip to the crowd.
Right.
You can literally just,
Talk to people about what they care about.
Talk to people like they're people, and sure enough, they'll buy business from you.
That's right. That brings up an excellent point too. Is just a quick story to share, and I think that you're absolutely right on a couple things. Number one is, I've shown you irrefutable data, your census, that shows you that we are becoming more diverse as a nation. We're not going to become less diverse in the next decade or two. I mean, we're only going to become more and more diverse. So consequently, this whole one-size-fits-all thing is not going to fit anymore. I mean, it's, if you are going to have more minority business owners, more minority customers because there are more minority people, then that's, who starts businesses and, who owns homes and life insurance and all that. But also, I think to your point about trying to connect with people on a real level instead of a superficial level, what makes you you is not the color of your skin, or the shape of your eyes or anything like that. So just a quick story. One of my clients, we were doing a focus group with African American women, and one woman was telling a story about how she wanted to buy a washer and a dryer. So she went to Sears or Best Buy or wherever you buy appliances, and the guy that was waiting on her was a white guy. She's African American, and she said, we're talking and going over the washer and dryer features, and at some point he switches and he starts talking to me about Beyonce and Jay-Z. And she's like, really? And she goes, I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to connect with me, find a way to connect with me as a salesperson. And she said, but I don't really want to talk music with this guy. I want to talk spin cycle. Talk spin cycle with me. So, again, sticking to, he would have been better off with what I call features, attributes, and benefits. Just talk to people about what they need. Is there anybody else who wants to share? Is there anybody else who this prompted a comment on? Hang on one second here. Thank you. Coming around. Who? You?
Well, we were talking about amputees and how many people are older people with lack of mobility. We haven't figured out how to market to them. But we've identified that as a
Fantastic.
an area.
Huh?
The dolphin has a robotic tail. Have you never seen that movie? No, anyway. My kids saw it. Winter, the dolphin in a dolphin's tail. The amputees, they all came because, and especially if you were around Fort Bragg too, that might be another.
But you bring up an excellent point. I would imagine that an amputee would have very different needs than someone who has all limbs and, et cetera.
Absolutely.
So if you can show someone how they can benefit with what, your products and services.
Right, so we were going to get you to explain that to us.
Oh. Well, actually, the first thing that I would do is I would actually contact some organizations. I mean, seriously, okay, the first thing that I would do, if I'm not an amputee, and therefore I don't know what it's like to be an amputee, I would educate myself. It always starts with that. Educate yourself about the group that you're trying to reach. And I would contact some organizations that do business with amputees or serve amputees, right? And the first thing I would do is I would go to them and very respectfully introduce myself, and I would say, I'm a local business person. I sell, professional financial services, and I would like to serve your customers as best I can. So what I would like to do is understand what your customers need so that I can best serve them, because I can't serve them if I don't understand what their needs are. Can you help me with that? I think you would find a very receptive audience with that, with almost any market. Okay, we're talking about amputees here in this example, but any market would anybody would respond to that approach, right? If you just very respectfully say, obviously I want to, increase my business here, but I think there's an opportunity and I want to understand how best to serve this community. Educate yourself. You might find affiliations, you might find organizations you could become a sponsor of or part of or whatever, but you will get a master's degree, in what it's like to be an amputee if you understand and educate yourself, and you will grow your business that way. And I think the closer then you get to the business, the more you're going to profit from that. So, hang on one second.
Just to kind of piggyback on what you were talking about there, there's a organization, I don't know how many people are familiar with it, Melissa Data.
Melissa Data?
It's a website that has listings of all kinds of groups.
Yeah.
So Mother's Morning's Out, whatever. One of the things that we've learned about is being able to, these folks need speakers.
Yeah.
They need for their organizational time. So getting in front of people like that, helping them out, and then drawing in customers that way.
And not selling, but you will sell, right? Not selling, but you will sell. But you bring up an excellent point. A lot of those organizations need speakers, and if you go to them and you say, I would like to get in front of your group, I will not do anything pitchy. I will not be, it's not going to be an infomercial, for my agency for the next 30 minutes. But what I find is that nobody really understands insurance. Nobody really understands what they need, and I would like to explain to people what they need so they don't get ripped off, so they don't buy the wrong stuff, they buy the right stuff, and they buy the right amount of it or whatever, and that's what I would like to do. And obviously, if anybody wants to talk to me afterwards, I'll have some business cards, but I'm not going to do a sales pitch. May I please get in front of your organization and talk about that kind of thing? I think if you approach it that way, you would find a very welcome reception to that, because I will tell you, too, that you are not selling a stick of gum. You are not selling a stick of gum. People do not understand financial services. They know they're important, but they're intimidated by it, and they don't even know where to begin to get the answers that they need. So, wrapping up. Let's see, I had a couple of more slides here, but that's it. Okay. I am going to be around almost all day, and so thank you very much for your time and attention today. And just a quick plug, if I may. I have a book. I have actually 2 books. I'm the author of 2 books, How to Market to People Not Like You and Crafting the Customer Experience for People Not Like You. And both are on the Business Book bestseller list. My newest book, Crafting the Customer Experience for People Not Like You, outsold Bill Clinton's new book in February. Thank you. It's kind of a big deal, man. Kelly McDonald and a former president? Yeah. So anyway, I have these books here, and I'll be around all day. And so if you want a copy of the book and you want it signed, come see me. I'll be selling them for purchase. And if you've got a best-selling book that's signed by a best-selling author, then you know that sucker is worth $1 million on eBay when you go to resell it. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.